Good evening, folks, and welcome again to the late night edition of thechefandthegrape.com. And this week we are talking about Spanish wines. I, of course, am your host, Chef Christoph. Something pretty exciting for me. This is a Gran Reserva from Monasterio. Monasterio, just the Spanish word for monastery, because in fact the property where this wine is grown used to be a monastery. And this is a 7-year-old blend. Oh God, no. This is a 10-year-old blend of Garnacha, Tempranillo, and Carniña, or Carniña. Now, you might have heard of Garnacha, and that's a fairly common varietal. It's out there a lot, single varietal Garnacha or Grenache. Bright, fresh, fruity, doesn't ask a lot, pretty simple, but fun, right? It's fantastic for making sangria, by the way. Tempranillo, I always akin Tempranillo to Cab Sauv. Big, muscular, got a lot of structure, gives some real weight to a wine. But Carniña, or Carignan, now that's something different. What is Carignan and what does it bring to the party? Well, Carignan used to be one of the biggest varietals grown in all of France, and for a long, long time, and with good reason. It grows quite easily. It produces an incredible amount of grapes, and so if you're looking to make bulk wine, Carignan, pretty natural choice. Challenge with it is Carignan is actually very high in acidity and very high in tannin, also astringent. So if you're not a winemaker with a lot of skill, yes, you might make a lot of wine, but it would be a lot of wine that wouldn't necessarily be palatable. Well, one of the things that winemakers have learned over the past few decades especially is that Carignan, when the yield is reduced dramatically, is actually capable of producing phenomenal quality. Check out what they're doing in Chile. There is some great single varietal Carignan coming out of Chile, and it's old vines. It's 60, 80, 90 years old. But we're talking about the Monasterio. And so the Monasterio has blended this, much like in Bordeaux they would blend Cab Sauv, Merlot, Cab Franc, to have fruit, to have structure, and some of that punch from the Carignan, or Carniña. Looking in the glass, we can see there's tons of concentration to this on the nose. It carries actually a lot of berry tones, but much like one would expect from Cab Sauv, it's not just raspberry or red raspberry as we would expect. It's black raspberry. It's a bit of black cherry. It's black currant. There's a little bit of what the French call sous-bois, or forest floral. So it smells like when you're walking out in the forest. A little bit of savory herbaceousness, a bit of wild thyme growing on the hillside. And on the palate. So that Carignan really comes through right away. Fairly light-bodied wine. It's got a briskness to it. That's Carignan. Some full acid, and then the Grenache comes in with that little bit of fruit, which is wonderful, and then at the end, or mid-palate at least, you're starting to feel that weight and that structure from the Tempranillo. And Tempranillo, unlike Cab Sauv, generally is a little bit light-bodied, or more light-bodied than Cab Sauv, let me put it that way. So as a blend, I think it succeeds quite well. This is a very inexpensive wine. Runs just over $20 Canadian in the BC market. So it means in your market it's obviously going to be less than $20, unless you're watching this in Sweden. So Monasterio de las Vinas, the Gran Reserva. Robert Parker gave it 91 points. I think he was being a touch overly generous, but then again, he's had far more Spanish wines than I have. So I defer to him that he scored at 91 points. Of course, you do not have the same palate as him, nor do I. He alone has his palate. I actually would score it 90 points, and I still believe that it's excellent value. I hope that you look for it in your market, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I.